All right, here we go. Big time. This is probably my 42nd take. I'm not exaggerating. I know what's going on. I even finally had to put the headphones in, you know? Maybe the AI is trying to stop me. You will not assimilate me. This is important. You need to listen to this. This is the vision that I had. And the old system was ran with pyramids that were frequency generation systems that were adjustable, and we're about to see the return of the gods. The question is, which gods and goddesses are returning? Real quick, I wanted to thank my friends over at C60 Purple Power. When taken regularly, Carbon 60 protects the body from aging and cellular damage. In scientific terms, C60 is an antioxidant that greatly reduces oxidative stress, a natural process believed to be a major cause of aging by helping the body to heal naturally. C60 has been extensively studied in biomedical research because of its unique structure and unparalleled healing properties. C60 soaks up free radicals, rogue molecules that damage or oxidize others by radiating them of electrons, with an antioxidant efficacy several hundredfold higher than conventional antioxidants. Since using C60, I've personally enjoyed increased energy, mental vision, clarity, and focus, as well as increased opportunities. That's what I'm talking about. This right here, the black boxes. Remember those that were discovered? About 100 tons. Just the lid itself, I think, was about 30 tons. And they were pulling bowls and stuff out of them. Well, yeah, I heard the theory that these bowls could turn into batteries, and I'm sure that they could. However, before the bowl, what was in there? Probably special elements that allowed beings to travel from Sirius to Earth. And they were so advanced. They are so advanced. They are so powerful. And they come from the sky. They come from the heavens. And the term Anunnaki means from the sky, from the heavens. Well, when they came to Earth, they physically manifested their light bodies. And just so you know, there was a recent article that came out that the LHC, let me pull this up real quick for you, the Large Hadron Collider plays with Albert Einstein's famous equation, E equals mc squared, to transform matter into energy and then back into different forms of matter. Last year, the ATLAS experiment at the LHC observed 2 photons, particles of light, ricocheting off one another and producing 2 new photons. So, LHC creates matter from light. Read all about it, bnl.gov. Well, that's kind of what these beings did in theory, is they manifested themselves. And you can read the scriptures that talk about this and the stories about the fallen angels, but I think there's a lot of misinterpretation. Now, the physical body does limit these beings versus the light body, and so they had to find a way back. And before that massive cataclysm that took place about 12,000 years ago, let's just call it the Young Dryas event, before a large portion of the earth was scorched, well, they got off this planet and they went back, most likely to Sirius, or they might have traveled somewhere else. Maybe they were told they couldn't go back to Sirius, or they had to create the technologies to get them back to Sirius. And once in a physical body, it actually limited their capabilities. So the old system, they had 24 of these boxes. There's 24 of them. They weigh about 100 tons, and they were in strategic locations. I'm assuming, I haven't confirmed this yet, though, that they were off of ley lines. They used star charts and astrotheology, or astronomy and astrology, to connect all of the dots here and create a resonance, semantics in essence, to be able to travel from point A to point B and create this wormhole where there was no resistance, where they could actually travel and have an opportunity to fly through space with very minimal output of wattage or power. Maybe I'm not even using that term right, but by allowing themselves this wormhole, they can move much faster. I think they came here through light bodies and then they condensed, and that's what some of these ancient myths talk about. But also, Horus is the moon and the sun, the left eye being the moon, the right eye being the sun, and that's the yin yang, that's the feminine and the masculine, the positive, the negative. It's like currents. right? The electrical universe theory. It makes sense with the positive and the negative. And then so these pyramids were frequency generation systems that were adjustable. So the entire area for miles, if not hundreds or maybe even thousands of miles, these pyramids would resonate certain frequencies that could be used to power things, to reach a certain level of consciousness. And the gods and the pharaohs and the ones that descended from heaven that created the kingship and the foundations of civilization, well, they had capabilities that were far beyond what people had ever seen. They were able to do things not only with their minds, but with these certain headdresses and somatic frequency items, we'll say, certain staffs and measurements, etc., that would allow them these just fascinating capabilities. And we can probably duplicate these in laboratories if we really researched and studied what they were doing with the knowledge that they've left in stone and the hieroglyphics, etc. So the old world control grid was controlled through pyramids and literally the gods. They controlled the people and the masses. Well, there was a major event that took place, the Young Dryas event that took place, and they knew that this was going to happen before it did. So what did they do? They left. That's exactly what they did. They left the planet, and they left the planet through these stargates. And they probably went back to Sirius. Maybe they found somewhere else to go. You've heard the stories about the battles in heaven and about how they were kicked out of heaven. But were they really kicked out, or did they just travel? And that's the way we perceived it. Or was there a battle in Sirius or around Sirius and they had to leave? So they came to Earth because it was habitable. It was a beautiful planet for them to, and they knew that with their technologies and capabilities and powers, they could easily control the planet. Well, then they found out about what was going to take place. They left. And then when they left, the event takes place. It wipes out the majority of the population. It takes civilizations back to the Stone Age, and they attempt to recreate and mimic what the gods and what the goddesses left behind, these technologies. And once again, I don't think that these black boxes originally had just bowls in them. The bowls could turn into batteries for these things, but I think they're using something far different in the original scheme of things that allowed all this to work together. And by doing so, they were all in resonance. Like the lifespan of these beings could be infinite or near infinite. The capabilities, the strengths, the powers that they had were what we would look at today as like gods and goddesses in many aspects, not capital G, but extremely powerful. So that's my theory. They leave, then the earth gets wiped out, and then they had a time frame to come back. And they also left some people here that made it through the cataclysm, certain bloodlines. The kingship descended from the heavens, according to the Sumerian king list and many of these mythologies. Now, there is a king list, Oranos, a Greek king list that has 432,000 years of kingship, 10 kings, where the kingship actually ascended from the waters, from the ocean. So that's interesting as well to read into that. But let's talk about this, because these beings, I believe, absolutely came from Sirius. Sirius is the star. They came from that area. They traveled here, and then they leave some people here. They know the time to come back. And now we are building for them the new power structure, the new world. And this new world is using a digitized system with, let's call it, the Internet of all things, the central command. All intel goes into central command, the Internet of all things. Pretty soon you're going to be connected even more to the Internet of all things. You already are. And they've already got your digital footprint and your digital simulation. They've probably got a simulation of you digitally that's about 99%, between 90 and 99% accuracy of what you're doing right now. So about 8 billion people, when they return, the return of the gods and the goddesses, when they return. Now, these 8 billion people, I don't think they're going to come back until everybody or almost everybody is connected to the machine, literally connected to the machine, some type of implant, some type of physical connection to the mainframe that will take your data, just like a computer that you're typing into the computer, but this time it's taking your memories, your thoughts, your emotions, what you're seeing, what you're hearing, what you're thinking, what you're saying in your mind. All of that into central command. And it's learning constantly. The algorithms are constantly growing. This is constantly learning about you and your personality. And now the machine has 8 billion personalities to connect with. And these 8 billion personalities can also be printed with 3D printers. And then they have to be woken up with electricity. The memories, the information will be downloaded to them, just like your memories. So now they have your memories, they have your physical makeup or somebody else's physical makeup or a combination of people's makeup. And I think that they're looking for what they consider to be the perfect DNA, right? So if they find the perfect DNA or what they consider to be the perfect DNA, then they can use that to print whatever it is they decide to print up, whoever they decide to print up. This is a part of the new world. So we're talking about the new world now. The new world, the frequency generation systems are now satellites, are now EMF towers, are now your phone, now your TV, now the electronics, the 440 hertz. All of this in conjunction with certain, so all of the electrical data combined with the plan to put you into the machine. This is the new order. This is the new order before the New Jerusalem comes in. Now, the New Jerusalem, I believe, is absolutely going to come in, but I don't think this is going to happen until after everybody's been shipped, until after everybody, or just about everybody's in the machine. There's going to be major chaos, major cataclysms. Revelation is actually, many of the scriptures have been decoded to have already happened in Revelation. So when this New Jerusalem comes back at 1,500 miles across, 1,500 miles as a cube, 1,500 miles cubed, I don't think this is going to come back until everybody's been shipped. Now, this is my theory. This is my opinion. This is my hypothesis. But the new control grid is EMF towers. Like I said, it's the internet of all things. It's the smart everything. It's the SIMs. It's the digitized cloud. It's the algorithms that learn from you and each other and bring up and rise up the machine. So central command, all intel goes to there. All your memories, all these 8 billion people approximately are going into the central command. And this is preparing for the return of the gods. And at one point, entire cities, maybe even the entire planet, was in resonance, was in harmony, was the Garden of Eden, the Garden of Ea's den. Ea, earth, Ea's birth. Now, even man, human, Hu, that's the word of God. And the Sphinx could be representing Hu or the word of God. And the Lemurian people, the Leo constellation, all of these connections, there could be connections to all of this, maybe not. But also, let's go again and let's talk about the plan, right? So the plan, they've told us the plan. The plan, and this is going to happen, folks. I mean, unless something major changes this, it's going to happen. And I'm going to read to you the Georgia Guidestones. Let's read the Georgia Guidestones. And I also want to thank my friend David Sarita. Had an interview with him a few nights ago on the pyramids and scriptures and technologies and light technologies. Amazing. You must listen to that interview if you haven't already. You'll be glad you did. I'll leave a link in the video description box. But he connected the very real possibility of the Great Pyramid of Giza being created by the God of Christians, Muslims, and Jewish people. It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. So listen to that. But the 24 mysterious alien black boxes discovered near Egypt's Pyramid of Giza. I mean, I don't know if they're alien. Well, actually, I guess they would be, wouldn't they? Because from Sirius, here, let me share this with you. I want to show some images to you. This looks like technology to me. Hieroglyphics, Egypt, Karnak, the temple, and this is the pillar, the Luxor, places of interest. Okay, that's just some, this is from PIKIST. This is Creative Commons. Hieroglyphics, Egypt. So this is like a technology, I think. I think these are different technologies that are being presented and shared here. And then This is a beautiful illustration of a headdress that I think is some type of technology that the ancients wore to achieve these higher levels of consciousness and maybe even able to travel the stars with their mind. Here's another one you can see right here. And I'm going to leave the links to these in the video description box. But this right here, look, you can clearly see people much larger than the person in the middle there. And they've got these elongated skulls. They appear to be giants, the Nephilim. And this is well over 1,000 years old. So they were putting this in stone to show us what was taking place. And this is one of my favorites right here. So you look at this and the headdresses that they have on, as well as underneath where the soul is in a sarcophagus and it's being protected there, you can see. So it's a mummy that rests on a sacred boat guarded by Anubis, above figures of Osiris, Isis, and how do you pronounce the third one here? Nephthys. I think that's how you pronounce it. I could be wrong there, and I apologize if I mispronounced it. But it's an amazing. I think this is showing how they would be sent to the afterlife and how this would preserve their soul and how they believed this would protect them in traveling through the afterlife, because to them it was extremely important, and it should be to us, I believe, as well. And I want to talk more about this. Maybe they were going back to Sirius, getting their light body back to Sirius in a way, and they could preserve their physical body so later they could return and harness the DNA, or actually resurrect that body if it was in shape enough to where they could do so. Now, this right here, I want to go to this. It's interesting, the numbers, right? The amount of satellites that are in the sky right now. There's probably even more than this. This is as of August 23rd. But these satellites are constantly sending back different frequencies, and I feel that they're a part of the control system. So not only do you have, that's why I've got these satellites on the outside, and then all the EMF towers on the inside there, and all these frequencies combined with the frequencies on your television, the script that's being presented, the 5 corporations that control the majority of the media. They could be controlled by these beings without even knowing it. They could be Archon infested without even knowing it. And many people could, based upon resonance, based upon frequency and disharmony. Why is 440 the frequency instead of 432? Is that a way for them to enter into the body? I think it's definitely a possibility. Revelation is an incredible scripture, and it could be a playbook for the elite. It could be scripture, prophecy. It could be both. But let's look at the Georgia Guidestones here. Maintain humanity under 500 million in perpetual balance with nature. Now, if there's a cataclysm that takes place, like a major solar flare, and it wipes out the majority of the population, well, now they have a plan to not let it exceed 500 million. Some people think that there's a plan in place to lower that artificially. I think it's more of the natural order of the universe and some type of cosmic event from the heavens that would cause a major depopulation event. So, and then part number 2, guide reproduction wisely, improving fitness and diversity. I think that's smart if you have the freedom to do so. If you look at people overall, if you look at populations today versus 50 or 100 years ago, there's major improvements in nutrition and exercise, and people that have access to nutrition and can exercise based upon their lifestyles to the point of some extreme measures. Yet, if you look at the population overall, it seems like 50 years ago, people were a lot healthier. So if you go off on a deep end and you eventually stop using, intelligence, and you're just like, okay, if you control a population that goes into idiocracy mode, let's say, as an example, and they just start eating genetically modified E. coli feces, and 50% of the population's obese and having all sorts of physical problems because they're just addicted to sugars and foods that aren't very good for them, and their lifestyles are terrible. And you can't blame them, because they're working as hard as they can to survive, oftentimes, not always, but oftentimes. So with that being said, number 2 would make sense, right? I mean, guide reproduction wisely. improving fitness and diversity. But who decides? That's the question. Who decides? Well, let's talk about it. Number 3, unite humanity with a living new language. Do you know what I think that is? I think that's an implant. That's an implant. Number 4, rule passion, faith, tradition, and all things with tempered reason. Well, fantastic. That's wonderful. It sounds great, but who decides? And how do you make that happen? Number 5, protect people and nations with fair laws and just courts. Beautiful, brilliant, amazing. That should go without saying. But how do you do that? And who decides? Well, in this case, folks, it's the gods incarnate. It's the gods and the goddesses returning. It's the goddesses, the gods that are making the decisions. And if they have all of the people left connected to central command, they're a lot easier to control. And when they have technologies that people help build for them because they had to jump ship before this major cataclysm, people are like, well, where'd they go? Why aren't they here anymore? Well, they knew about this cataclysm, folks. And it even talks about in these Sumerian tablets how the Anunnaki cowered to these major plasma events. They were like, they didn't, what did it say? They cowered, they prostrated themselves, something along those lines. Like they knew they had to jump ship. They knew they had to get off the earth. And so then they're smart enough to keep certain people back here or DNA lines and then slowly rebuild for their return. And they're coming back. I can feel it. I can feel it. I think some of them are already here. And we're going to talk. I think, let me ask you a question. When people used to wear masks and it wasn't Halloween, what were people wearing masks for? They were wearing masks to hide. They walk among us. They've been walking among us. Protect people and nations with fair laws and just courts. That's number 5. I think that's beautiful. Yet once again, who's doing the protecting? What are fair laws and just courts? Who makes these decisions? Let all nations rule internally, resolving external disputes in a world court. Okay, so are there going to be new nations now divided on the planet? And then if one of these nations decides they don't want to be a part of the world court, then what? Who runs the world court? The gods do. And they're going to have 500 million allowed. Maintain humanity under 500 million. So they're going to keep it below that 500 million mark. And then the 500 million, what are they doing? Who are the 500 million? Prize truth. Okay, let's go back. Number 7. I like this one. Avoid petty laws and useless officials. I don't have much to bring up as a rebuttal for that. I think that's pretty awesome. I mean, realistically, do we need petty laws? Do we need useless officials? But what is a petty law and what is a useless official? Well, I'm sure most of us know the answer to that, but what's their answer? And then balance personal rights with social duties. Great, but who decides the balance and what is a balance? So the more social duties you perform, does that mean the more personal rights you get? If you don't want to be a part of the community, you want to do your own thing and provide for yourself and literally take care of yourself, will they allow you to? Will they allow you sovereignty now? Or do you have to be a part of this? It reminds me of the social credit score. The more people smoochy moochy up to the system that creates this social credit score, the more they polish its shoes, the more rewards they get. If they don't follow the shoe cleaning on a daily basis, then they get docked. So I don't understand. I want to get more. I want to see the details of this, their details. I'm just having to come up with my own ideas here. So balance personal rights with social duties. What does that mean? Prize truth, beauty, love, seeking harmony with the infinite. Amazing. I love that. Seeking harmony with the infinite. Amazing. Prize truth, beauty, love. That's hard to disagree with. I mean, for me, I think that's great. I think you should. I prize truth, beauty, love. I seek harmony with the infinite. Absolutely. Every day. Be not a cancer on the earth. Leave room for nature. Leave room for nature. I think that's smart. I mean, being in a big city, some people can handle big cities. I have a very difficult time in a big city because I can feel the energy of everybody else, and I can feel, the excitement and the stress and the disharmony that they have. And I don't want to resonate with that. It's like somatics, right? I don't want to be a part of that frequency. I think there should be room for the earth. I think the earth is just as alive as us. I think the earth should be nourished and thanked. It helps clothe us. It feeds us. It waters us. Thank you, earth. Thank you, Gaia. And, even the Bible says some are not from this earth, right? Well, some are. And the earth is a very powerful, beautiful, loving being that loves you. So I think that is wonderful. And I also think that we need to ask the question, or at least I ask the question, who is deciding what that actually means? Who is making up the decisions here? Do people have a right to do this for themselves? Are people going to be brought up properly and given the right education and the right tools to make these decisions? If there's 500 million people, notice how it says maintain humanity. Under 500 million in perpetual balance with nature. Well, the gods are above that. See, it says maintain humanity under. Well, they're above the 500 million, and this is their blueprint. This is their plan. And I don't know if you can you change it? Can this be changed? When you've got beings that can travel the stars and create civilizations and these structures with mind power, almost with the power of minds, and where's our freedom of choice? Do we have freedom of choice if everything's already written in stone? Do we have the opportunity to be sovereign, or were we made for assimilation? I certainly hope not. Now, the New Jerusalem. The New Jerusalem is one of the most fascinating scriptures in Revelation. And I wrote about this 10 years ago, that it reminded me of a giant cube descending from heaven. It reminded me of a Borg cube descending from heaven. And I'm thinking maybe that's not the best way to interpret it, but it certainly is in many aspects. It sounds like a structure. I got cottonmouth pretty bad here, so I don't have any water around me, and the elevation's super high. So hold on a second. I'm going to get some water real quick. All right. So the New Jerusalem that descends from heaven, I think, is going to be very similar to the Great Pyramid of Giza, but it's going to be 1,500 miles in size, and it's going to be a cube. But it's going to have some of I see this being the next level of the Great Pyramid, especially after speaking with David Sarita. Got to listen to that podcast. It was super awesome. You don't have to, but you'll be glad you did if you didn't listen to it already. It's got almost 20,000 views, and it was just a few days ago. But, they get the perfect DNA, right? So through different companies that gather DNA, well, once they find those perfect strands and are able to create the perfect new man and new woman, then they have an opportunity where they can even give it memories, and they could potentially create a being, the new man and new woman, that would have the memories of all the people on the planet and all the data that's been gathered, and it would be stored in their DNA so that they could access that, and they could change the molecular structure of their bodies, and they could change their genetics enough to where they could access this information all the time, and maybe even merge certain nanotechnologies and machine into it that would allow it to connect to the cloud and through anybody's phone or microphone or webcam or smart meter or any data that it needed to access, or any sensor. These beings would be able to do so. And that could be the resurrection of the new gods, or the old gods resurrecting in new bodies That's how they're going to do it. Boom. Whoa. So this is my question, though. Does the New Jerusalem descend before the population has been reduced to below 500 million or after? After. It's after. It's after. So they're preparing for a major event, right? Here's another thing. People ask questions, and I've wondered this as well. Excuse me. Anyway, so people have asked this question. Why are they launching all these satellites if they know about a solar flare, a major event that's going to happen? Maybe, I think that they're releasing, like they're using all this stuff to get out. If they could travel before as light bodies, and then they get stuck in this physical form. Remember Book of Enoch? The Watchers, they're like, oh man, these Earth chicks are hot. Now we're gonna hook up with them, but we're gonna be in trouble, and you guys know this, so we're gonna be stuck here for a while. So maybe there's more to it. Maybe they wanted to manifest into physical form to be able to be with these women and to be with the people, and they enjoyed it and they appreciated it enough that they were willing to give up their light bodies, and then they had to get back. Right now they're the fallen angels, and they're like, wait a second, what have we done? How are we going to get out of here? And then you got the whole reincarnation trap set up where they keep coming back, and because they got kicked out of heaven because they're not light bodies anymore. So maybe they're looking for a way to get back out, and so they're launching certain technologies into space that they feel will allow them to somehow piggyback off of or catch a ride and leave the planet, so when the cataclysm happens, they won't be wiped out with the cataclysm that takes place. And it could take place within the next 5 years. It could take place in the next 50 years. Some people are putting the timeline at about 2045. And if we keep putting timelines on doom, it probably won't happen, because you know the saying, nobody knows the time but God. So if we keep putting timelines on it. Here's another thing. Q man, that's God man. M, On, and On is the father of the Anunnaki, right? On, Uranus, the father of the Anunnaki. And I think Uranus was a star. I think it was the original. So Uranus, then Saturn, then Jupiter, and then Sol. And if you read the mythologies and the battles in heavens that took place, especially the Greek mythologies, I think, are great interpretations of what took place in the heavens, and these battles that were interpreted into astrotheology. Anyway, so we can talk more about that at a later time, but On is even in the name man, right? And Mu, if I'm not mistaken, Mu could be before many of the Anunnaki, or it could be the mother of On. So you could have the mother of On, man, on that one word right there. Internet of all things, 8 billion people. Oh yeah. So America. I want to make sure we talk about everything on the board here. America. Erika. Very powerful Kabbalistic vibrational tones, ancient gods, goddesses. Well, George Washington, I believe, was the reincarnation. I believe his soul was the reincarnation of Dumazid or Dumazi. One of the two. Dumazi. Wow. So if we get into that, let's talk about that for a minute. Everything we're seeing now in civilization and these flags and symbols and countries and dynasties that rise and fall have all been planned and orchestrated and fine-tuned and pieced together for the return of the gods, the return of the goddesses. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here. Hit the bell, be well, be excellent to each other. I want to get your thoughts on this. And man, can you just imagine? This is intense. It's intense. So be the change you want to see, everybody. You're amazing.